Okay, there we go. Now we're recording.
Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to the Simon Fairfield Public Library Board of Trustees meeting for May 26, 2020 at 4 p.m. It is now 4:12 p.m. We have a quorum. So moving forward, we are looking at reorganization. And we need to do that. So if anyone has any campaign speeches or things that they want to present right now, they're welcome to do so.
Everybody wants to keep their current jobs?
I'm okay with it. It's other people are.
I'm good with vice chair.
No hostile takeovers?
Treasurer?
What are the roles now? I've forgotten if they're on this document. I don't see it.
There's the chairperson, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and I believe not so much, is the treasurer considered the people who sign the warrants?
Well, while you're talking about this, I'm going to mute myself because Ellie called and she's having trouble signing in, and I'm going to see if I can help her.
Okay. Okay. Great. So right now it's myself as chair, Kate as vice chair, Ellie is secretary, and the treasurers is shared by Barbara and Dawn, right?
I believe so.
I think that's it, right?
That sounds about right.
So if everybody's good with that, if people are okay with what they're currently doing, I would entertain a motion to continue for FY21 with the officers as they are for FY20.
So moved? Or do we have to wait
Second.
for the rest to come back?
And a second?
Second.
A second.
I think Kate was first.
Okay.
She was first and second.
All right. If somebody can just keep track of, until Ellie gets back on, to keep track of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Not entertain a motion. All those in favor
Aye.
of the
Aye.
reorganization?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? The motion has carried unanimously. And now I'm looking at a blank screen, so I don't know what is next.
On the, with the financial, wait a minute. Oh.
Right.
Am I
I
looking
have
at the
it,
old
I
agenda?
had it saved.
I had
Yeah.
the minutes and then the financial report. I don't have
Yeah,
the
I have it,
reorganization.
yeah.
Maybe I have an old.
Minutes from
I
last
have an old
meeting.
copy.
Okay, next is minutes from last meeting. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read the minutes from April. If there are any questions, corrections. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes for the April meeting as written.
So moved.
And second?
I'll second.
I'll second it. So it was Kate and then Nick. I'll take the notes for Ellie.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the minutes from last month? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing none. Minutes have passed. Moving on to the financial report. I think we probably should wait for Justin and Ellie to get back on. And at the bottom of it, if you were reviewing the numbers, but at the bottom he talks about there was a plexiglass barrier installed around the circulation desk. Justin thought it would be reimbursed to the department, but it is reimbursed to the general fund and will not be done so until next year. So once again, Justin's suggestion is to pay for it out of the library grants.
Out of the library grant. I'm not sure which grant those
are. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure. I don't know how the towns are going to handle all this. You know, it's something that has to be done. My thought is that it's the town's responsibility. But I don't know how other departments are handling it, you know, of all the different things that need to be updated.
Right.
Taking it from.
I know, it almost feels like there's, like, I don't know, just thinking in general with the world, like kind of putting everything in that COVID bucket. Like people have a different section on their website for that, and it's probably not the way it'll happen, but it just seems like there's so much related to that, almost like a temporary one-time section would make them be the easiest for everybody.
All right, I'm back, and Ellie is going to try to call in from her phone. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
What did I miss?
We did the reorganization, which was really no changes, and we accepted the minutes, which were no changes, so we didn't miss much. We just got through the basics, and then we were starting to talk about how things get handled, I guess, right, with all the various things that need to be done around town related to the virus, which is not for us to decide on the whole town, but just as a point of interest.
Yep, and I guess that everybody could see me while I was going through Firefox, trying to figure out how to change settings.
I can hear you now.
Awesome! Woo! Okay.
Hey, Ellie.
Hi.
So they accepted the minutes and reorganized with no changes.
Oh,
So
okay,
Ellie,
good.
So Ellie, for your notes, I think do you need to know who accepted and who seconded it? Or not?
I never put. I just says it was moved, seconded, and passed unanimously. That's all I do.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. All right, then
But
you got it.
thank you. Are you? Let's see. I'm trying to get to a page that I can. Oh, cool. Okay, it's the 26th today.
Yes.
Yep.
And everybody's there except for Barbara.
I think so, yeah.
Looks like it.
Okay. And so you did the reorganization, same people, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And it was unanimous.
Right.
Okay. All right. Go on. Carry on.
Financial report, Danielle?
Done.
Is Danielle gone again?
She seems to be here.
Okay, well, I guess I'll just move forward with financial report. Danielle, if there's issues or anything, then, so I'm looking at the chat window too. If everyone wants to pull up the chat, that'll show, give everybody who doesn't have audio an opportunity to talk with each other. There's not a whole lot of change in terms of the finances of the library. I've continued purchasing ebooks. We still have $3,592.83 left in our operational balance, and we only have 1 month left of the fiscal year. Our personnel appropriation has more than enough money to cover the remainder of the fiscal year, and we'll be turning some back, which will be good for the town at this point in time. And, between what I have left in the operational account and the fact that we haven't spent anything out of our revolving account yet so far, we're more than set to end the fiscal year, comfortably. I did use $1,506.16 out of the $2,000 that was approved in grant money to augment our electronic collections and meet demand for ebooks and e-audiobooks. I don't think I'm going to need to spend any more than that, though. I'm done. The only hiccup on the financial side is that Brian LaValle installed a plexiglass barrier around the circulation desk. It's something that has to be done before we're supposed to allow staff back in the building, even though we never really unstaffed the building. And that was an invoice total of $1,750.47. I thought that would end up being reimbursed to the department, but the way FEMA is reimbursing, it's just going to go to the general fund, and it's not going to go back into the general fund until sometime next year. So I don't think that we'll be able to get reimbursed for it, although I will ask Matt to do everything in his power to do that, but we do have to pay for it in the meantime, and I would suggest doing it out of library grants.
Are you going to have any money left
in operations?
Is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. It's too close of a call to tell. We could pay for it out of operations, and then that's probably doable. If we paid for it out of operations, and any books, like I've ordered books through Baker and Taylor, but nothing has come in. And whenever they do come in, I'll start getting invoices. And I haven't reconciled backwards to look at what I've in theory ordered versus what I have actually paid for so far. I usually send Baker and Taylor a notice to stop all shipments, cancel everything that hasn't shipped yet, and then create a new cart for me around the midway point in June, around June 15th. And that's when I know exactly what I'm going to be expecting to pay the.
My problem with paying with the grant money is that if the government decides to reimburse either state or federal the cost of accommodating for the coronavirus, I don't want it to come out of the grants. I want it to come out of something that's reimbursable to the town, and I don't think the grants would be reimbursable.
Plus, if we don't use the operational, we have to turn it back to the town.
Yeah, I always use the last of the operational because I can go in on June. Yeah, I can go in on June 30th and order ebooks to meet ebook demand, or that still counts as an expense for this fiscal year.
Oh.
Yeah, but in this case, I think you really do need to, that we'll get reimbursed, the town will get reimbursed from the state or the federal government for this issue. So I'd rather in $1,750 and what for the plexiglass?
1750.47.
Okay.
But yeah, I see your point, and I think that's fair. So if I do it out of operations, I'll just rescind what I said about grant money, and maybe I'll need to use $400 more to augment the operational budget for the remainder of the year.
So was that you said it was 150616, but that's under Moan historical books. Is it under LIG-MEG? Was 1543.62.
Oh, this is below it. So the
I see.
$1,506 spent.
Is in Moan.
Well, I've spent $1,506 in Moan. Right. That I messed up somewhere. Where's
So it's the LIG-MEG, the 1543.62.
LIG-MEG. Hold on just a second. Let's pull up our accounts and look into. I think I wrote the wrong thing in the wrong place. Decrease. Reports, income and expense, cash flow, settings. Oh, no, not 2020, 2019. And end date 5/16/2020. And select the library grants, apply. 1,543 is what I've spent. And okay, yeah. So what? Okay, I've spent $1,543.62, not $1,506.16, out of the library incentive grant, out of the $2,000 that was approved.
Okay.
My bad.
And that was for ebooks?
That was all for ebooks.
Okay.
So if I'm going to pay for the plexiglass out of operations, then I don't guess it needs a motion or anything. I'll just pay for it out of operations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll make sure that we don't overdraw operations by going ahead and postponing any further Baker & Taylor purchases until July 1st, since they're not shipping anything anyway. It seems like I'm getting DVDs. Anytime I order a DVD, it comes in. But I've got books that I've ordered since the pandemic began. I put in 2 or 3 book orders, and I haven't got any of them.
Is it because they had to close? Because they themselves had to close? Or?
Their warehouses are in different locations, and their book warehouse might be in a location that's more affected by a pandemic closure.
Mm-hmm.
That was a problem with, Rebecca wanted me to order some archival supplies from Gaylord, and I couldn't do it because Gaylord's based in New York City.
Oh.
All right, so I guess that's all of my finance report.
Okay. Are we still missing Danielle? All right, I guess I'll take over. Anything else on financial report? If not, we can move on to director's report.
Circulation counts are obviously dismal. It could be worse, though. We were circulating more digital loans than we did last year, but everything else is down significantly for obvious reasons. Our door count was 0, so I didn't bother to report that. I mean, it wasn't actually 0. Like PC Wi-Fi clients, we had 30 PC Wi-Fi clients, which, that includes staff plus, probably people in the pizza shop and pulling out back. We actually have had people coming to the library parking and using our internet. So that happened. Regarding pandemic operations, I guess is, the meat of this meeting, Deb, Gail, and I are still reporting to the building. Pages and part-time staff are still working from home. Deb has commenced offering her monthly book clubs and 2 weekly story times virtually, but she's been working with the kids who were her regulars before the pandemic started, before reaching out to any additional patrons. But, so far the feedback from parents has been that their kids are already getting too much screen time, and there's a lot of fatigue going on because kids are doing things for school online. They're keeping up with their friends online. And all this screen time, parents and even kids aren't necessarily excited about adding more. And we expect this to be the case as long as the school year is in session. And, to be honest, I don't want to put the library in a position where we're adding to that kind of screen time excess fatigue. So that's where we are with that. The book drop is open as of last Thursday. Tomorrow I'm doing a run to collect items from people's homes. A lot of people have asked me if I want to take items back whenever I'm delivering, but I don't want to mix delivering and taking back at the same thing. I want that to be 2 separate pipelines. The book drop is open now, and I emptied it for the first time this morning, and it took 3 wheelbarrows to hold all the things that were in there. So I'm definitely glad I'm going on this run tomorrow, because I'm people that I've been delivering to since we started. People who have kids, and they have a lot of picture books at this point.
Right.
Delivery is ongoing. The volume has begun to trickle down, not significantly, but a little bit. Last Thursday, I delivered to about 36 addresses, and, not a whole lot of books per address. It's gone down from, people requesting, a dozen books to just a few. I anticipate that changing once the materials start coming back, because, we've reached a point where we've got all of the stuff that people want is already out. Once we start accepting returns, that'll go through a quarantine process, and then it'll get back in the pipeline, and we can recirculate it. The adult book clubs have resumed meeting virtually. Man, I made this bullet point list in a really random order. Anyway, the book drop, we're doing that in a 3-day quarantine. So I'll empty the stuff out of the book drop, put it in the basement for 3 days, and then we'll check it in. At this point, summer reading program is looking like it's going to be entirely remote. Some performers who we have agreements with are proposing sticking to their scheduled times for live performances. Others are pre-recording performances and making them linkable for the duration of the summer reading program. I've applied for a grant to pay for an electronic reading tracker called Beanstalk that would help us to make logging reading hours easy for kids and for adults too. This summer reading program, I don't want to focus on a whole lot of programs, a lot of virtual things that kids can do online, because they're already saturated with that. I kind of want to capitalize on our delivery. I want to get, focus on trying to get physical books out there and in kids' hands. But I doubt we're going to be having any programming in the library, either kids or adults, until fall. I want to continue to reiterate that talking with other libraries in the Valley and across the state indicate just how well our municipality is doing with this crisis. Listening to library directors around us, it's not going well for them. And, in some cases, it's like, it's a worst case scenario, Some libraries are having to turn back the remainder of their budgets for this year. Some libraries are having to reduce their budget by half next year. I'm the only library director I know of that hasn't had to furlough the majority of staff. It's a bleak outlook out there right now, but because, Douglas is still in financially good shape post-override, things, doing a lot better than our peers. And I'm very grateful for that.
And I want to just say that I think it's two things. I think one is the support from the town. We are getting support from the town. And Justin, you've done just an incredible job. When I looked at the guidelines for opening up and down that bulleted checklist, the things that libraries should be doing, for phase 1A and phase 1B and that, I'm looking at thinking in my head, I'm like, they're already doing that. They're already halfway down that list. And, you guys are just doing an amazing job. You and your staff are doing great.
Well, we're lucky that we're able to, because when the town reorganized and we technically got put under Patrice's purview with the senior center, we were, technically deemed essential personnel. In Sutton, the library director is not allowed in the library still. The Board of Health won't let anybody in the building. And,
oh my God.
And there's,
the director can't go in?
Looking at other places, in Upton, I believe, I'm getting libraries confused. I know I'm butchering it, but I know one library, the director's reporting in once every 2 weeks. A lot of library directors aren't reporting. Whenever we have our Zoom meetings and, get together, most people are at home, not at the library.
Right.
And most people are doing everything they can from home, but, whenever we're talking about phase 1 of reopening, technically the governor said we could start curbside service yesterday.
Yeah.
Which, on a state holiday, which gives you a clue as to how much they know in library operations. But, as of today, technically libraries can offer curbside, and some of the libraries are already doing that. Most of them are not. Most of them are not even bringing this staff in until later, until their Board of Health gives them approval. Yeah. And they don't want to start curbside pickup until 2 weeks after they've done that. And, the bigger your library is, the more factors there are involved. I mean, I know Worcester, Leominster, some of the other the bigger libraries in the area, that's still, bringing staff in, offering any kind of service is not even on their radar.
So let me ask you this. So when towns that are doing that are mandating that, library staff can't go back, they can't do this and that, what happens with the money in that budget? Does that get turned back to the town then?
A lot is getting turned back to the town. A lot of the towns need that money to stabilize the budget. We don't, because we passed the override and it was supposed to stabilize the budget for 5 years. FY21, there's still, excess from that would have been going into free cash that now the Board of Selectmen can use to shore up the budget. So, I mean, this is skipping ahead to the next part of this the meeting.
Right,
but, I mean, the only thing we're being asked to do is not take COLAs and cut our operational budget by 2.5%.
Mm-hmm.
But saying in this part of this bullet list, Gail and Rebecca are delivering food on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for about an hour each day, and that's work they're doing for the senior center. Technically, it's time they're claiming that is going on our payroll, but I don't know that it's actually going to end up coming out of our payroll. The town might be paying for it from somewhere else. I'll find out when we're reconciling at the end of the year. Everything is chaos, and we're making it up as we go along. I mean, that's.
Oh, I know. I just got kicked off again.
You got kicked off again? I can still hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? All right.
Yeah.
Well, my screen is black, and I sound like everything went blank. All right. I don't want to take it personally.
Any questions about what we've done so far before we start talking about what happens next?
No, you're doing great. Keep it up.
Yeah, good job with that.
Okay.
So Danielle shared that, I don't know if I'm skipping around or what, but Danielle shared that helpful email with some links to some of the directions as far as opening. Is that where we are? Is that kind of where we are now, or am I skipping ahead?
That's kind of where we are now.
Okay.
That's actually this bullet, because
Okay.
I think that's all a bunch of hogwash. There's still no date for deliveries resumption. We already talked about how the state made, we can technically offer a curbside service now. Most libraries and CWMRs aren't planning on that until June 1st or June 8th. We're already doing home delivery, which puts us on an entirely different wavelength, an entirely different trajectory. We already have staff in the building. There's been no further guidance offered by the Baker administration. The MBLC has tried to plug the holes. They put out their own literature regarding phases in planning. But if you read into that, it's like, phase 1.1 is bring your staff into the building. Phase 1.2 is think about what's going to happen next. And it's all kind of a conversation about trying to convey the message to the public that we have a plan. I don't see much of a point in that. And I think I've already actually even used the language, I'm making this up as I go along, in a newsletter. Whereas another
smoke and mirrors.
Another library director in the Blackstone Valley we were talking to, he's like, well, we have to have these plans because we can't let the public know that we don't know what we're doing. This is like, I just don't see the point of that. I don't want to give false impressions. A lot of this is we're making it up on the fly. I'm not taking great pains to, this board doesn't seem to have ever been huge into plans and procedures. I just started doing delivery and y'all were okay with that. Whereas, Upton, after talking to me, that director wants to do delivery too because he agrees with me that it's a lot easier than trying to do curbside service. But it's something that they're not going to consider until they have had a meeting to discuss the policies and documentation and procedures and paperwork for people to fill out and this and that and the other. And, we're just not that kind of community. We're not, and maybe it's not for the best, but on the other hand, we've been able to have this going now for 4 or 5 weeks.
I think it is. I don't want to sound too schmaltzy, but it's for the greater good. When I look at what you and your staff and Patrice have done to do outreach in the town and provide a much-needed service of food delivery, is just amazing how you were able to pull that together.
And, a lot of it is just, I thank you, but a lot of it is just the fact that we're allowed to do it. There's other directors in the Valley that are hamstringed by their town administration and by their boards of trustees. It's not that they don't want to do anything, it's that they can't.
Yeah. I've worked with several libraries in the area, and talking with other either librarians or board members, so from both sides of the fence, I was hearing these horror stories about what the Board of Trustees was requiring of them and not letting this children's librarian do and this and that, and it was like, what? I don't know. I think whatever, it works for the best. I think we're doing a great job in Douglas, and I think we all should be proud.
Woo. But yeah, full-time staff's already in the building, so that's not something that we need to address. Technically, we're supposed to have a reopening policy and procedure in place before we can allow anyone back in the building, but we never left. So I do think that delivery works better for us than offering curbside service. I can't see us not offering curbside service before June 8th. But, it's easier for us to run the pull list as usual, and then on Wednesday night We can check them all out, and on Thursday I can spend half a day delivering it all to the patrons. Whereas if doing curbside involves staffing the circ desk, it involves having personal protective equipment, scheduling pickup windows for patrons without cell phones, trying to create touchless transactions. And, this is something that we would want to do in the parking lot, not on the side of the road, because, if you park in front of the library, you're kind of taking your life into your own hands. 3 times since I've been director, we have had someone come up Main Street and rear-end a patron who was parked in front of the steps. I'm not comfortable having patrons park out there and then providing service. People are going to look, they're going to get distracted. It's an accident waiting to happen. So if we did do curbside service, I would want it to be, you pull out back. And then you have the issue of our collections are way up here, they're way down there. We're not on the same level as the road. So, the building doesn't do us any favors here in terms of trying to offer curbside pickup and service. That's going to be a killer on everyone's knees. And, as long as everyone is okay with me still doing delivery, I'm happy to do delivery instead of that and then offer curbside at a later point. Depending on how it goes, and try to get the message across that delivery is easier than curbside.
Easier for everybody, right? Easier for you and for the, I'm sure the patrons would prefer it too.
Yeah, and a lot of library directors put out surveys asking, whether patrons were interested in curbside pickup through delivery, and the vast majority of people seemed in favor of curbside. But, I think that there's also a bias introduced there because people are bored, they want an excuse to get out, and since they think it's easier for the library, then they're more likely to select that option because library patrons tend to be nice people.
Right. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, as far as you and your staff goes, that curbside would be easier than delivery, but if you say you prefer doing delivery, then carry on.
Curbside will be way harder than delivery.
Justin, if I would keep track of the gas that you use too, because that also could be reimbursed, or your car, or how many miles that you go on your Thursday trips, drive arounds, because that's not that. Yes, you're being generous, but you don't have to be, because the government's paying for everything. So I think you're doing well, but keep track of it. Figure out how many miles you drive on Thursdays and stuff, and turn it into Jean and Matt, and see if
I'm keeping track of it. I don't plan on submitting it right now because that would have to come out of our operational budget. But it's something that I definitely want to budget for in 2021. So when I'm doing this after July 1st next year, I would want to submit for reimbursement.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm just lucky to have it. I'm thankful to have a job, and then I can, file this as donations in kind on my own tax returns. So it's not a total loss.
Yeah, but still, if the state or the federal government is reimbursing people for the cost of this virus, then that's a cost, that you.
The way it would work, though, is they would reimburse the town's general fund, but it would still come out of our operational budget. So we wouldn't get the money back. The town would, though.
And then they would transfer
that's
it to
just
us
a question
the next year.
I don't think they will transfer it to us the next year. I think once it's in the general fund, it's in the general fund.
Yeah.
No, a lot of things for the school go into the general fund, and they send them to the school later.
I can check, but my impression is that we won't get it back.
How are they paying the people that are delivering the food?
Most of the people delivering the food are volunteers, so they're not, unless they're part of the busing. Like some of the food's being delivered via bus, and those people are getting paid anyway, so they might as well be delivering food. And then the people delivering to seniors are either, it's either town employees or volunteers. If they're town employees, they're getting paid their hourly rate, but no one has been submitting for mileage reimbursement.
I think that mileage is a really good thing to keep track of. But my understanding and my experience with state budgets is that travel is like a separate line, and it's strictly monitored. It depends on each town is how they monitor it. So maybe check in with, I'm sure you would, check in with Jean and whoever else to see where that would fit.
Somebody.
I'm adding up. Luckily, the trips aren't that expensive because I'm not going anywhere besides in town, and I always do a round trip, so I end up back at the library. I've done more deliveries than I thought.
What bothers me is that that you're doing this work. If you were in a different department like highway or police or fire, that they would get reimbursed and stuff for it, big time.
It would come out of their operational budget, though. So I mean, so far.
Well, yeah, but nobody budgeted for this coronavirus. So
there's going to be a whole separate budget next year that the town submits all its expenses for the virus, and this could be a part of it.
Yes, I agree.
In the meantime, though, it would have to come out of our operations. So, I mean, so far, $108.71 is...
Yeah, just keep track of it for when they do the COVID accounting.
Yeah,
vaguely keep track of it.
Every time I do it, I print out my entire list itinerary, which automatically calculates the federal reimbursement rates, sticks it on there, puts it on a map, because that's what the town would do. That's what Jean would be doing if I were submitting, my routes to her. And so I've got all this stack of paperwork showing where all I've been.
Good. Well, that when they submit all their expenses, that'll come up.
Let's see what else there's to say about this. Delivery more effective than curbside. Quarantining books for 3 days when they're returned.
Why do you do that? I'm sure it's a library across the nation thing, but I just don't. I mean, all of the stuff in Walmart is in quarantine for 3 days, and it's open 7 days a week. So why your books? The
idea with retail is that, in theory, you're giving things away, but they're not coming back. If we're taking something from someone's home and bringing it back into the building, before we give it to someone else, we want to make sure that it has had time for any potential virus on it to die. And the CDC is recommending 24 hours. Add an extra 24 to that just for good measure, and it's 3 days. Most libraries seem
I don't think it's
3 or 5 days.
I think it's a good idea. Someone like Walmart doesn't have as much flexibility.
And we're not sanitizing stuff to the degree that Walmart is. The retail establishments, they have, people there who are cleaning things all the time. And that's another thing is, like the other option is you don't have to quarantine things, but you have to sanitize them as they come in. You have to rub them down or you have to spray them with something. That involves materials, and, I think it's easier just to let them sit than it is to try to wipe them all down with Clorox. Does that answer your question, Ellie?
Well, I'm not convinced in my mind, my heart, but that it's absolutely necessary to do any of that stuff. And but I'm not going to. That's just my personal feeling. But it's fine if you want to do it. If everybody's doing it, and from what I understand, everybody in the USA is doing it. So it's I could be wrong.
Well, it's better to be safe than sorry, I think, for us, because a lot of our patrons are what you would consider vulnerable. As far as plans for reopening the building to the public, it's not on our radar yet. Conversations with other directors, no one knows how we're going to approach this yet, and it's not something that's been indicated in any phase of the governor's plan yet, is when are we going to be open to the public again. We have to consider the public access computers. Right now, I've put our public access computers away because having them right next to the circ desk isn't going to be the greatest idea. They're going to have to go somewhere else. We've got plexiglass up around the circ desk, so the staff kind of looks like they're in a fish tank. I've taken away a lot of the big tables so that we can move, so that people have more room to move. Because if people come in, they're supposed to wear a mask and they're supposed to stay 6 feet apart. And the way the building's currently been arranged, that's not really possible to stay 6 feet apart. So we're having to kind of open things up. A lot of discussion has been happening in regards to what we're going to do for printing and faxing. Some librarians are saying they'll if someone needs to fax something, they can email it to them and then they'll fax it. But at that point, why not just I don't even know. This is another one of those things that it's just not on the radar yet. I don't know when we're going to be open to the public again, when we're going to be allowed to open to the public again. Consensus among the Blackstone Valley libraries is we do kind of want to take it slow to make sure that we're not rushing out ahead of anyone else, because if you do that, you're going to end up with an influx of patrons from other towns swamping your library and creating, service. It'll mess things up. And that's all I've got for reopening until I start talking about budget stuff.
Well, before you get there, the one thing that I'm most anxious about is when delivery between libraries happens again, because I have all these things on hold.
There's still no indication on that whatsoever.
I mean, that I think is the more important thing. I think the state's got to get going, and the Mass Library Association, or whatever they're called, has to get moving fast with that sort of stuff. If they're going to have policies and plans and everything that I don't like, then get moving on it. That's
the crux of the issue.
That's not your responsibility, but that's
each individual library has approached this different. So some libraries have been, a big thing that a lot of librarians have said is like, I can't lock my book drop, so I've had to accept returns throughout this pandemic. It's like, well, guess what? I can't lock my book drop either, but I duct tape it shut and no one put anything in it. So, I mean, there's libraries, with, 50, 60 bins waiting, just waiting for delivery to come pick up. So whenever it does pick up, it's going to be absolute chaos. And the MLS pays for it. Optima does it. Optima sorting facility is actually based in Connecticut. So anything that goes through the MLS delivery, it goes to Connecticut before it comes back to Massachusetts, which adds a whole other layer of complexity. So yeah, as soon as all the dozen institutions that have their finger in this pie get on the same page, we can have ILL again. But until then, it's kind of every library for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something let me know, and I'll try to order it. Maybe Baker and Taylor will send it in.
Oh, you just can look at my reserve list, and some of it is stupid old movies. So
that's what keeps you going.
One thing to keep in mind, Justin, I think to your points earlier, you started talking about some of the programs for the summer, and that some of the people that you had contracts with were, wanting to keep those dates, and then also that a lot of the parents were like, with all this online stuff with the kids. So it would be great if there's a way to work it out, of course, safely, to have a few of the programs. I mean, we're not talking about 500 people, right? And if it's summer and the weather, maybe it's weather dependent, doing some of them outside or distancing enough, if that's still going to be required in July, say. It just would be nice to be able to offer that so people are, face-to-face a little bit if we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we would.
Yeah, I realize it might not be possible, but.
Nick, are you still there? I know Nick said he had to leave at 5. I mean, one thought I had is, doing something in the back of the library, like, I don't know, moving the projector screen out there or something, doing what you have to set up to do an outdoor program. Where people could come socially distance. It's not something I would consider right now, but as restrictions get loosened, maybe that would be a phase we could do before letting people back inside for programming. But my other thought was that, you can't park back there and have a program at the same time because the parking lot would be where we would be doing it. So I don't know how anyone would feel if we moved some library programming to the farm. Or maybe the town common, or somewhere where there's already a gazebo or something set up.
How friendly is the church across the street? They've got all that land that's right across the street.
They do. I could contact them too. I mean, I just don't know all the ins and outs of using municipal funds and having a municipal, a town-funded event on a private property or anything. That's not something I've ever had to think about before.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can speak for the Historical Society that there's not a whole lot of land there, but there is some outdoor area that you could use that. We have chairs.
Do you want me to start talking about the budget now?
Sure.
I know.
All right.
Yeah, it sounds like we lost Danielle again, so. Yep.
No!
Budget!
So we need to think about it. We're not getting hit hard. We're not Webster where they're having to lay off their entire highway department. We're not Blackstone where they have to turn $38,000 of the library budget back to the town. We're not Whitensville where they have a complete freeze on all non-essential, non-utility spending. But we do have to prepare for, some cuts. Cost of living increases have been canceled, so our personnel budget will go from $176,748 to somewhere around $173,866.53. That will just happen automatically. Matt still wants to give steps to everybody, but no cost of living increase. I don't know why they're doing steps, but maybe it has something to do with the unions, but they're there. So aside from that, Matt is asking every department in town to reduce their operational budget by 2.5%. For us, that is $19,028. He doesn't care where it comes from. So the absolute easiest thing for us to do, which wouldn't really require any thinking whatsoever, would be to just remove that from our circulating materials line item, call it a day, and move forward as usual. Because if you look at our next year's budget, we were going from $43,441 to $55,988 for circulating materials because we're getting that influx to pay for more ebooks to satisfy school use. So if we just decrease that by, where's my thingamabob? How do I get back to? If we decrease that by 1,928, our job is done. We've met the requirements. We can move forward, and nothing really changes. But
does that mean that you would? Does that mean that you would not buy e-books for the school?
No, I would just buy 1,928 less.
For the school, for the whatever you were doing with the school.
Yep, because that's where I would take it from.
Okay.
So $1,928.
And you would not be asking us for 1928 from LIG-MEG, right?
No, because the whole point of that budget was that it would get our circulation budget to where it needed to be, rather than where it has been. So that's one route we could go. Some things to consider, though, are that all capital expenses have been frozen. So our electrical upgrade, our power plugs, getting all that back into compliance, that's not going to be paid for out of capital budget because that's all, suspended. FY21 is about keeping operations going. And COVID-19 has significantly affected how we as a library provide service to the community, and it's likely going to do so throughout the next fiscal year. So we could adapt to that if we wanted to, and alter some things. So some potential things to consider. If we're not open to the public to come in to browse, we're not having any programs, and we're doing door-to-door delivery once a day a week, there's not much of a point to being open as many hours as we are. MBLC standard for a library our size is 25 hours per week. That's how many hours a week we have to be open to remain in compliance with our stuff. We're currently open 36 hours a week. Most of the libraries around us are planning on cutting Saturdays and reducing staff because they have to, and for the reason that, what do you do with your staff when you don't have people in the library? We're struggling to come up with jobs for everybody, and if it weren't for the fact that we're sending people to work, for Patrice doing meal stuff, then there's no way I would have enough work to keep everybody busy, because we don't have new books coming in because Baker and Taylor's not delivering. There's just a lot of stuff that's not happening that normally would. So if we wanted to save on personnel rather than operations, there's options. If we closed on Saturdays for next fiscal year, we would save $6,861.55. Right now, we're struggling with finding things for our pages to do because there's not, you've seen our circulation numbers. There's nothing to shelve. And what there is to shelve could easily be handled by staff. If we eliminated the pages, then we would save $8,896.50. If we did both of those things, we would save $12,876. If we further cut Thursday evening, no one has been here on Thursday evening since this crisis started. So why keep paying people to be here Thursday evening when there's nothing happening? We would save $17,670.98. That would be more than make up for the $1,928 we have to cut from operations, and give us flexibility in spending. I hate it makes me sick at my stomach to say it, but operational dollars are a lot more versatile for the library than personnel dollars. We still have, electrical issues. We still have, that code compliance stuff with the power outlets and stuff we need to address. None of that is going to be covered by capital in FY21 because those have been frozen. As long as we're not open to the public, the ability to spend more on circulating material, both electronic and print, that we can deliver, in terms, that trumps being able to provide good in-person service by having people at the circ desk all the time and being open on Saturday so that people can hang out. No one's coming here to hang out. There's two ways to consider this. Do we try to, preserve our staff level at what we have now on hopes that things get back to normal as quick as we can, or do we assume that FY21 is going to, for the most part, look like what it's looking like right now, and adjust our spending so that we're maximizing the value we're giving back to the taxpayer for our appropriation?
When is the annual town meeting going to be?
Don't know. Have no idea.
I think it's September or October.
I've heard thrown around.
Yeah, because I think you're getting a little ahead of the game here.
Well, we have to kind of play pretend that it's already happened starting July 1st, because we're you know what I mean?
Justin, I don't think you can. When your budget gets passed by town meeting, there is a personnel budget and there is an operations budget, and you can't mix the two together. You can't give operational money to the personnel side, and you can't give personnel money to the operations side. So that would not help our capital needs. You'd have to have it go to town meeting with whatever you want for capital subtracted from whatever's decided here. So that's why I think you're getting ahead of yourself.
Well, this is coming up with the budget that we would present to the town meeting in September. Which is why I wanted to bring this to your attention now, because, you know, operational money can be spent on maintenance and repairs. Personnel money can't.
Right, exactly. And what you're suggesting here is all personnel money, and I think that wouldn't, if you cut it there, then you want to put it back in a different place, because you have this necessary repairs on the electrical work that the town can't afford anymore, and so you're accommodating this need with by transferring the personnel money into the operations money.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Well, I favor eliminating the pages.
Doesn't reduce the budget if you just transfer it to operations.
Exactly.
Well, he's already reduced it. He already reduced it by 1926 or whatever it was, 1928.
Possibly.
That's.
Are we assuming that no one's going to be allowed back in the building for an entire year?
There's two pieces here, and one is that we have to cut the operational budget by 2.5%. So we've got to shave 1928. The other piece that's entirely unrelated to that is, what do we want to spend our appropriation on? Do we want to continue to spend it on personnel when our services are being drastically reduced because of the necessities of this virus, or do we want to transfer that to operations so that we can use it for more circulating material, building repairs, and have more flexibility? That's my big concern, is flexibility, because, you know, there's going to be more costs associated with this pandemic, I think, before all is said and done. We've got our plexiglass up. But, you know, that's for the circ desk. What are we going to do for, you know, the public access computers? Is they going to need to be protected somehow? Are we going to need to be able to provide masks? To what degree are we going to have to put, you know, like hand sanitizing stuff all over the place? I just don't know, which is why, you know, like operational dollars are versatile, whereas personnel dollars are not. They have to be spent on paying a staff person.
How many pages are there now?
There's 2. So, I mean, there's a lot of avenues. I don't know what the board's favor is on this. I mean, this is a situation. This is one of those things that I think the board should be the primary deciders of rather than me. Because, you know, we could eliminate one page, and then we would have half of that 8,896. We could choose to cut Thursday evenings into not Saturdays. We could choose to do all that. Or we could choose to do none of it and preserve, you know, things exactly the way they are moving in, minus $2,000 that we would be spending on school materials anyway. It's just, if we are going to do something, now's the time, so that we can have this in place and, you know, have set aside what is operational versus what is personnel before there's a town meeting, whenever it is. And Matt can go ahead and put this in his spreadsheet, and this can be our new basic our new budget plan moving forward. It's an opportunity to change strategies. Danielle, we cannot hear you. Danielle's back. All right.
I'm back. I am having such an awful time. I've been trying. I've been starting to feel a little hurt because I've been trying to say something. Everybody's talking over me, but I don't think you could hear me.
No, we couldn't hear you.
Okay, I have a suggestion. I feel that we should be open on Saturdays.
Yes.
Wait, where did it go?
No, I've lost. The pages, that line there, I think we could eliminate that. And assistance, pages and assistance, I'm getting, all I have now here is, I'm not getting the right page.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get back to where we were. There it is.
Yeah.
I need to step away for 2 seconds.
We're talking about, no. You're looking at FY21, so my suggestion was staying open on Saturday, eliminating the pages and assistants, and maybe Thursday night open. If we're open
no,
Tuesday
you eliminate
night,
the pages. You just eliminate the pages. The assistants would be shelving. And we only need to, the total that we have to get rid of is $4,809 for what Matt wants it reduced, and then whatever's left over, if we get rid of the pages, can be used in capital.
can't we go to operational? Can it be moved to operational in next year's budget?
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm back.
Yes.
There's nobody else here, so anytime someone bangs on the door, I've got to...
Danielle, explain that all to Justin again.
My suggestion was, and I'm on the wrong, I can't see the page, but that we would, I feel we should stay open on Saturday mornings. There we go. We could eliminate pages. So that would save $88.96.50. And then, are we still open Tuesday evenings?
Tuesday evenings we're still open. A lot happens on Tuesday evenings.
Cut Thursday evening and pages, stay open Saturday morning. What does that give us?
2 seconds.
Well, I think I'm a little confused because I thought we were only trying to find 1,928. I guess that's not the case.
Well,
no, the total would be $4,809.47 that Matt wants reduced. But then what Justin was also saying was that the capital stuff that emergency need for the electrical work to be done is not going to be funded.
Operational then. That would be moved to operational, not capital.
Right. So if you get rid of the pages, that covers the $4,809 that Matt wants it reduced by the budget.
Right.
Plus, it gives you the money to do the electrical work.
Right. And then by further, whatever the amount would be, because, Justin, you have like a combined number for not being open Thursday evenings, or whatever that cost is.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm
no,
I don't. The math right now for closing Thursday evenings and not having pages.
I don't like that. I'm not going to vote for closing Thursday evenings.
Okay.
Can't you just reduce the personnel by the amount that you need to reduce it, and then juggle around the personnel when the year comes, depending on how much we're open? Do you have to categorize that all now? Or can you just put in a personnel number that's minus what you need to reduce?
I can.
Once you set the personnel number, you can't move it to operational.
I understand. I don't want to move it to operational. I just want to be flexible so that if in January we get open, we might need to reassign staff.
Yeah, which is why I've coupled things here because, like, if we were to get rid of the pages, being open Thursday nights would not be. We wouldn't have the coverage to do that anymore.
Right.
They're intertwined. I keep losing my window here. And pages are also responsible for the majority of Saturday staffing as well.
Okay.
I mean, the other thing to do, if we just want to save the town money and not focus on trying to, do all this other sort of gymnastics, is just not be open as long as we're not open. I mean, like right now, no one's here on Saturdays. No one's here on Thursday evenings either.
Or Tuesday.
Tuesday nights I stay here. It's my night off from putting the kids down, and there's plenty to do. I mean, the problem is I can't furlough people because of our involuntary building thing.
What do you mean?
Policies and Procedures Manual.
The town has a policy which the town administrator is interpreting that if the building is closed and staff are not allowed to report, then they still have to be paid. And it's the but that still only applies to full-time benefited people in terms of like snow and weatherization. So I don't know why they selectively apply that for this. I don't know.
Remember that is just a policy, and it's set up by the selectmen. That can always change it. It's not a town meeting vote or anything like that.
That's if they're already hired. If we start a new budget and there are no pages in the budget, then we wouldn't be furloughing them. They would be not in the budget.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so this would involve, I would have to fire the pages.
Yeah, but somehow you've got your figures all wrong because you have $8,896 for the pages, but then you say that personnel pages are part of the personnel for Saturdays. So is that part of the $6,861? I mean, you're double counting your personnel here. And the same thing for Thursday.
The reason that is because if we close on Saturdays, we save $6,861.55 because that counts the pages not working on the Saturdays, but they still have other hours, and that counts Deb, Gail, Marie, and Rebecca also losing those Saturday hours. Whereas if we just eliminate the pages entirely and have the library assistants do the shelving, then we save the $8,896. And I could staff Saturdays by transferring hours that the library assistants work from Tuesdays and Thursdays to those Saturdays because, for the foreseeable future, we're not going to require as much staff to run this building because there's not going to be as many people here, if anybody.
Okay.
And then
Did any page graduate?
One of our pages is a college student. The other one is a person who graduated a few years ago.
Okay. I was thinking if they graduated, you wouldn't have to fire them, but I can see that's not a point right now.
Well, I wonder. I mean, I wouldn't get so extreme that you do all of this. Put what you need, not what you want, in your budget. But remember that every other department in this town is going to pump up their budget as much as they possibly can. That the town administrator will allow, and if you are so generous and give up all these thousands of dollars here listed in those 4 bullets,
well, I'm not.
You'll never see it back.
I'm not wanting to give it up at all. I'm wanting to transfer it to operations.
Yeah, I think what Justin's looking to do is move that money into operations. So we have money to pay for the electrical and all that other stuff.
I didn't think the electrical was going to be that amount. You got a quote for it. Was it several $1,000s? It wasn't like $20,000.
It wasn't capital anyway.
Is fixing the floor dealies. $10,000 was rewiring all of the lights because we had that light in the basement that caught on fire, and Jeff Grenier wanted to change all those over to LEDs. That was over a $10,000 estimate. I never got an official quote on it. Or actually, I think I did. I'm going to send it to Matt. He kind of just scrawled it out on a paper because that's how Jeff does things. But if it's not a capital expense, he might be willing to come down on the cost some. I just don't know.
Well, safety is one thing. Changing to LEDs is a different thing.
Well, it was kind of the same thing because he because that light fixture caught on fire and they're all the same age and make and model, he wants to replace them all. And if he's replacing them anyway, it doesn't make sense to replace them with, a subpar something. It would make sense to replace them with something that's going to be safe and energy efficient. And at this point, I don't know that it would be that much cheaper to not do that.
Is the town still looking for a 2021 budget by the end of June, before the end? Well, normally they want it in January, but what are we looking at for the deadline? It's still July 1st start date, right?
Yeah, I don't precisely know. July 1st is definitely when the next fiscal year will start, so we have to have our plan in place by then, and then pretend that it's been approved until it is approved. And then if it is approved, then everything gets backfilled and it works great. If it's not approved, then I guess all hell will break loose and the world will end. But
you had mentioned earlier, and this is true, that it was if the budget has not passed, then you're going to have I keep on hearing my echo here. You're going to have a 1/12 budget until your budget is passed, which they want to wait until September to do that town meeting. So they do have something in place with for a budget.
Well, right now, what's in
the
place?
Time that the town meeting comes.
Right now, what is in place is the personnel reduction by eliminating cost of living increase and then deducting 2.5 from operations, which is why I wanted to have this conversation with you guys now, because if we don't do anything, we're just going to get 2.5% deducted from operations.
Right.
Whereas if we want to approach it a different way, we have to tell Matt now so that can be that can become the new strategy.
Well, I'm just going to throw this out there. The way that people who are laid off are it's working right now, as you probably all know. It's quite generous, and it may not be all bad news for the pages to be laid off.
Right.
Another thing to consider is I wouldn't be laying them off until July 1st.
Oh, okay.
Or, I guess I'd have to give them notice 2 weeks before July 1st, or however. I've never fired anybody before, so I don't know how any of that works.
I don't think it's exactly fired.
Yeah, it eliminated, terminated.
Yeah, laid off.
I think people understand what's happening here. I think most people understand the situation that everybody's in now with budgets. It's crazy. We don't know what direction to go in. So let me amend my thoughts where I originally had said that I wanted to stay open Saturdays, but if you say we don't have patrons, what if we just closed Saturdays? And that would be, and again, I have a blank screen.
That saves $6,861.55, and I don't have to lay anybody off, but just reduce their hours.
Okay. Well,
but what happens if everything goes away, all the virus goes away, and we can open again on Saturdays? I really like Saturdays when the library is, or when the world is moving, So
I agree.
I think all of those things are very important. I would just, I don't know, I wouldn't get so dramatic as you've got right here.
Well, I have to agree with you, Ellie, and that's why it's like I feel that we should be open Saturdays, but it is complicated trying to decide this, and I don't know.
Here's my question. Can you just reduce the personnel budget, not specify for what, and then redo it as things go by month by month, hire more this or more that hours? Say for the first 3 months the pages don't get any hours, but in December when we're open more hours, the pages get more hours. Can't you just be flexible within your total amount?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, I would say if we transferred something to operations, we would have the opportunity to transfer it back at fall town meeting, depending on how the cards fall.
No, that's not what I mean. I just mean, can't you be flexible within the personnel budget?
So are you, Betty, are you saying then that, so you have the money in there, but you're not necessarily using it right now?
Well, yeah, and you're not necessarily using it for 4 hours page, 7 hours assistant, but in the next month you might change it around according to what the needs are.
Yeah, they don't care. Our town administration does not care how our operational money is spent as long as it's operational money, which is why I can get away with, our electric bill was a lot less than I expected it to be, so now I can buy more on books. And it's the same way with in the personnel budget with full-time salaries, part-time salaries. That can all be juggled as long as it's personnel. The total amount stays the same, and we can't increase it. All we can do is decrease it and turn that money back over to the town at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
So why are we worried now about pages and hours if we just take the money we need out of the personnel, put it into the operational, not until after they've already taken out what they're going to take out of our operational, and then juggle it as the year goes on? I understand it will be gone, but...
Well, if we were to take the money out and put it in operations now, there's no guarantee we'll be able to put it back. So I would need to have a plan in place that we would have enough to see us through the entire year.
Well, I don't want to put it back. I just want to juggle the hours the staff works. We'll have to make it work with whatever we take out.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that for the older people around here, we used to have town meetings. You can have a town meeting whenever, a special town meeting whenever. You don't, and Douglas has, for the last 10 or 15 or 20 years, has been, they always have the fall town meeting, special town meeting, and then they have the annual and a special town meeting in May. So I would guess that they'll probably have another special town meeting when you can transfer from, within a budget. You can transfer from personnel to operational.
Right.
Probably in the winter sometime, in January, February.
It's a good point. So for now, I think what we're looking at is we do need to cut the budget by 2.5%, 1928. But we should, I understand Justin's concern about taking it out of operational, but we really want to have that money in case we need it, because we have things that have to be taken care of. So is there a place, Justin, where that $1,928 would come, it would come close to any of the change in hours for staff, or reductions in hours? Is there a way that you can, would that work out so that the money would come out of not operational but personnel?
Yeah, I mean, that would be personal budget. COVID.
You have to reduce the personnel budget by $2,881.
Why?
That's because that's the other number in the mix. There, it goes from 176,748 down to 173,866, and that's $2,881.
Well, that's happening. That's just absolutely happening, because that's the difference between us getting cost of living increases and us not.
Right. Okay.
So see, Matt's plan is you do that to the personnel budget, and then aside from that, you whack, everyone has to whack 2.5% off their operations. Which, I would have preferred to be able to whack 2.5% off of personnel rather than operations. He said that's okay. He doesn't care where we whack the 2.5% off.
So Matt said it has to be from operational?
Well, that's just a plan, because, that's what most departments will want to do. They'll want to reduce operations by 2.5%, and then, do what they're doing with personnel. We're in a situation where our services are so dramatically altered by this pandemic. I just question whether that's the best use of taxpayer money.
I understand.
I wouldn't worry about
understand
the taxpayer.
Because by far the easiest thing to do would be to just accept Matt's plan, accept our personnel budget is what it is there, and then take the 1928 off of our circulating materials, and basically just buy $2,000 less ebooks next year. That's the easiest option.
But if that's providing services for our
is that
patrons,
making the best use of our money? I don't know. I mean, you can make the case either way, because, we're preserving a vital infrastructure. We're keeping Douglas people employed. Whereas on the flip side, if we weren't doing that, we could allocate the money to the building and to other things. So, it's almost like a philosophical question, which is the best outcome for the community? If we decide not to make any changes, that makes my life easy,
Well, like Betty brought up before, if we just leave it at that, and then there has to be a midterm special meeting at some point in the fiscal year, right? There has to be.
That was Ellie.
Oh, that was Ellie who brought that up, of just putting it in and waiting and then adjusting to ask for,
right,
take money from personnel into operations. Maybe we should just.
Yeah, I think that.
Maybe just.
At that
I think that's a little risky.
At that point, the one thing you'd have to consider is that you would be looking at half of these amounts. If we're having a town meeting and considering allocating back in December, you wouldn't be saving.
Absolutely, yeah.
You wouldn't be saving $6,000 in personnel. You'd be saving $3,000, because that would have already been spent.
Yeah, that's risky. Who knows what would happen at the town meeting? That's leaving it all up to chance, I think.
Well, do we have any other board members who want to chime in on what they feel?
So we have
I
no
move that
real idea of when we might be able to open again?
No idea yet, no.
What?
So if we were to eliminate the pages and then we opened in January, whatever.
We could make do. We could make do for half a year.
It would be
short-staffed, but it would be doable.
Okay.
I'm still not clear. Do we have to say the personnel is reduced because of eliminating pages? Or can we just say the personnel is reduced by that amount of dollars?
I mean, we can reduce the personnel budget by whatever we want, but I mean, we just have to have a strategy for making that number work.
Exactly. So you got to come up with this person at X amount of dollars for X amount.
That's how we do this math. So, like, I can show you my spreadsheet here. So, like, this is how I come up with the personnel budget. Can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm. No.
Well, basically, I've got the person, I've got their grade, I've got the rate, and then I've got how many hours they're scheduled for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And then I've got the total number of hours they're scheduled for those days. And then since pages get paid differently depending on what year it is, since there's a minimum wage increase, I have to actually count how many weeks are in 2020 and how many are in 2021. And so the math is different for those weeks. And then what the heck did I just do? And so then you can come over here. You've got the total hours. You've got the rate. For pages, you've got two different lines because they've got two different rates. And then you've got this total down here. So this originally, you know, our budget was at $176,746. After I adjusted the wages to reflect the fact that cost of living increases are gone for everybody except the pages, it becomes $173,866. And from there, I can do things just like, say, we're not open on Saturday. I can just delete that column, and boom, it becomes $169,866.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's for you, but when you turn it into the town, do you have to categorize where it's all going?
No, they only care about what's salary, which is me. That's set. What's full-time wages and what's part-time wages. But again, if I just give them a random number without any justification for how we get to it,
right.
That's not responsible fiscal planning.
So you do have to tell them how much you're spending on pages and assistant.
Yeah, I mean, they don't care ultimately. It's just like the operational budget. You know, they give us X amount. They don't care whether I spend it on books or DVDs. It's just ours. But whenever they're trying to justify our budget requests, Matt does run those calculations. He puts them into his spreadsheet, and then he pumps out this whole thing, which he sends me periodically, which goes all the way from 2014 to 2025. We're here in 2025.
I would just keep the budget the way he requested you do it. So you reduce the personnel by what he said to reduce it to, and you would reduce the operational. At this point, just do that because that's what every other department's going to be doing. If you get messing around there, then they're going to question you.
Do you want to make that a motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
I move that we keep the budget as Matt has recommended it be reduced by.
All right. Do I have a second?
Seconded. It was Dawn.
All right. Now we can open it up to discussion.
I think we've already discussed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
What more can we say?
All right, hearing no further discussion, to We'll call for a vote.
Sorry, I was muted. I was asking questions while muted. So if we just do that, then we have no chance of fixing the electrical.
Unless we pay for it out of grants.
No, we do, because they're going to have another special town meeting, and we can, at that point, figure out whether the library is never going to open again, and Justin's going to be driving his books to every house in the block, and forever and ever. And but I am very positive that things are going to get better, that we will be opened again, and we'll also have a special town meeting sometime in the winter, and at that point we can play around with our budget. But we don't want to cut it at all now. We don't want to mix it around and say that this is what we have to do. We want to get rid of the pages so we could do our electrical work or anything like that right now. Just be positive that everything is going to get better, and this is all going to go away.
I agree. Any further discussion? All right.
But we're not asking to reduce the budget. We're asking to move it from personnel to operations.
We are
we're reducing it as recommended by Matt.
Which is what?
2.5%.
It's reducing the personnel budget by $2,881.47 and reducing the operational budget by $19.28.
That's it.
And that $28.81 is for the
the cost of living.
Cost of living.
Cost of living.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
so it's not really a reduction.
No, right. It's
not really. Even once you factor this in, our next year's budget is still going to be better than this year's budget, because this is all a cut from what our predicted budget was going to be in FY21, not from our current level. So, So go back into this long-term thing. Next year, our budget was going to be $253,846. So after you do this, it ends up being like $240 something instead. Whereas right now we're at $233. So I mean, we're still going to have more money than we did this year.
Okay. Any further discussion? So the motion on the floor is that we go with what Matt's asking us to do, and see what happens. Right? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dana says aye.
Opposed?
I don't think anybody's opposed.
All right.
Abstentions?
Then it is approved.
All right, I don't have to lay anybody off. That's awesome.
All right, moving on. I think everything is kind of on hold right now.
Right.
Yeah, I have nothing to report on anything until we get to grants.
I see the capital campaign has increased in $200, thanks to the Friends.
No, well, thanks. Not the Friends are giving the capital campaign, but I have to figure out all the budgets. They somehow deleted the ATM card, and I found out I had $100 left in our account, which I then transferred $1,000 into the checking account because it was crazy. But anyway, after I get the statements for this month, at the end of this month, then I'll figure out a way to give the $1,000 from the Friends to the capital campaign so that Justin will have a report for next month that says increase in $1,000 by the Friends. This is just via the Friends.
Via the Friends. Okay.
Yeah, this was
Justin.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, you explain it, please.
This was from an individual who donated to the. Hold on, I can tell you who it was in 2 seconds. If I go under regular donations, middle school robotics. I just had it in as middle school robotics. When the middle school robotics club was raising money for the library for accessibility issues, an individual donated to them, who then they donated that money to us, and that's what we used to buy the Kobo e-readers. And his company matched it, his donation of $200, which they had sent to the Friends to go into the interest-bearing building account money, or the thing. And you know what I mean. I'm trying to figure out, what was his name? Where did he go?
I don't know. You sent me an email with it, but I haven't done anything with it yet.
I'll just search my email for things I sent to Ellie. That's too far.
No, I think it was back then. I probably have the.
You know what? That won't be fun.
Okay.
I'll find it in a minute. Y'all can keep going through the agenda if you want to. Did my email freeze? My email's frozen. I'll be right back. All right, this is where we keep printouts of everything. Wait, am I still on the conference call?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. For a second, I was afraid my internet had gone away. So cash donations, library donations, building donations, library interest donations. $100. Going through this, I'm realizing how many cash turnovers are not happening right now for printing and copying fees. Right, it wasn't. Brian Lynch. Brian Lynch is the one who donated $200 to our regular donation account back in December. And that money was specified for the Lego Robotics team project, which was buying the Kobo e-readers for homebound delivery to patrons who couldn't access the library. And his company, which is Boston Dynamics, maybe? I can't remember.
Scientific.
Boston Scientific. Matched it, but they sent the match to the Friends to go into the interest-bearing building donations account. That's where that came from. And other grants, we're not eligible for any of the CARES Act funding because we haven't suffered a big financial hit. There is some money being distributed via the MBLC to help with summer reading, though, which I've applied for. So if we get that, then I'll have awesome summer reading software to track hours read. You still there, Danielle?
Oh, no.
Kate, you're up.
Okay. All right, moving on to LRP updates.
Just doing lots of webinars and conferences online. That's it.
All right, Friends, didn't we have the annual meeting report last meeting?
Yeah, I forgot to delete that. I copied and pasted.
Okay.
Yeah, we're meeting again on June 13th, I think. It's a Saturday. And so if any of you want to listen in, or I think Danielle is on the committee, it's more of a fundraising avenue that we're taking for things like the building campaign. And I don't think there's much else to talk about.
All right, any other old business?
Not for me.
Okay, new business. Anybody have new business?
Not me.
Definitely an odd time for new business, right?
Well, I think you covered most of the new business whenever we were talking about COVID.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the business that matters right now.
Mhm.
All right, our next meeting is June 23rd. I assume at 4 p.m. again?
Yeah, 4 p.m. in virtual, right? Is that what we're doing?
I assume so.
That's what you want.
That works.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Please, please.
Second.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Somebody's off.
We are adjourned.
Okay.
Cool.